So here we are at SUSECon. I mean, of course, Richard, we all know you very well, but just for the sake of this interview, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Swapnil. I'm Richard Brown, the chairman of the openSUSE project and a Linux distribution engineer working at SUSE on the Cubic project.
So as we all know, you recently changed roles. You were earlier with the OpenQA.
Yep.
And now you are part of the Cubic project. So can you tell, what is your role at the...
So in the past I was working in the QA department at SUSE, working on testing SUSE Linux Enterprise, which of course, we're using OpenQA for that. And I've totally changed jobs now. So SUSE's got a team called the Future Technology team, which is working on sort of all the real future leaning stuff, so sort of very close to upstream, the things that we want to have in future versions of SUSE products, future versions of cars, future versions of SLE. So right now, with everything we're doing in the container as a service area, that means I'm working on Cubic and getting that up to speed, synchronized up with what we're doing there, and really get that rolling as like an open platform for doing integration and collaboration on this container as a service stuff. So not just copying what SUSE is doing on CAST, but really kind of having it as an open platform. So if the community want to experiment with non-Docker runtimes, so have it like as a platform for running CRIO on top of Kubernetes, we want to start playing with that and really see where this road goes, because we look at what the rest of the industry is doing, what our competitors are doing and their kind of options there. We realize there isn't an open platform for this stuff. There's, CoreOS is doing what CoreOS is doing, Red Hat are doing what Red Hat are doing, but there's no kind of open project where anybody can just contribute what they want to do as part of this thing. Which it's a model we know works from the Linux distribution world. Why can't it work also for the container platform world? So, really excited to be working on that.
You mentioned the future, what is the name?
The Future Technology team.
So when you say the Future Technology team, when I think about some hot technologies, one is machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I do understand that SUSE or openSUSE doesn't have any stack, because, stake, like TensorFlow and all those things. But I was talking to a lot of people at SUSE that machine learning can help. Like the keyword these days is automation, right?
Yep.
But machine learning can't, whether it's scanning or finding bugs or so when you talk about this, this team, where do you see machine learning?
Yeah, well, with OpenQA we've already kind of now started dabbling upward in there. OpenQA has machine learning elements and computer vision elements in everything that it's doing already, and we still one of my colleagues in the team is also still doing much more day-to-day stuff with OpenQA, whereas I'm doing more upstream maintenance with that now. So I can definitely see that being part of the future with that. And I can't really say if SUSE's got any plans for a product in that area.
Not product. What I mean is because automation is your problem.
Yeah.
Because you have
exactly, and like automation is just a constant theme of everything we're doing at SUSE. It's where we started in many respects. With the build service, now with OpenQA, Kiwi, it's just in our DNA, and of course, the team I'm in now, we're going to be at the cutting edge of that. That's just kind of a given, I think.
Now, you have joined the Cubic team.
Yep.
So you had. Okay, let's put it properly so that we do get the context. I think 2 years ago, Leap was announced. And
yes.
That changed the whole chemistry between SUSE Linux Enterprise and openSUSE, as well as the whole community.
Yeah.
Then you came up with Cubic that brought CAST platform into the same fold. So should we expect similar things in the open? I mean, of course, OpenStack is open and community version, but should we expect something similar with SUSE OpenStack Cloud?
I'd love to see that. I can't guarantee that's gonna happen, because the SUSE OpenStack Cloud, it's the stack is so much bigger, and there's I think a bigger difference in sort of culture mentality that we have to bridge there, but. It's something I've been working on. It's very close to my heart, and in fact I've been having a lot of conversations this week where I think the biggest problem we've had is educating internally at SUSE, and also just wider, why we have this ethos, why we think this way, why this stuff really works out well for us. We quite often focus on the technical details and kind of forget the message of, this is why we do that. You've seen that a lot in like Neil's and Michael's messaging in the keynotes, and it's also been like what I've been doing in my sessions here this week as well. And the most interesting feedback I've been getting from those sessions has actually been from existing SUSE engineers who, just being so heads down and working so hard like they have been, didn't necessarily get that whole context and why. So I have hope that OpenStack will be closer and joining the family soon, but we'll see.
Okay. Now let's talk quickly about something which is even closer to your heart, which is Tumbleweed.
Yes.
Right. Last time when we talked, I don't know whether you actually mentioned Leap or Tumbleweed, but what you're telling me that I think it was Leap, that 33% is from Tumbleweed, 33% is from Leap,
exactly.
openSUSE, and 33% from SLES.
Yes.
So that was Leap, right?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's the composition of Leap 42.3, which
okay, let's stick with Leap for a while before we move to Tumbleweed.
Yeah, sure.
I do know it's close to your heart, but
I love
just
Leap too.
Break your heart for a second.
Yeah.
With the SLES 15, you are going even further when it comes to modular, kind of, because you have a unified installer with which you can install, different. It depends on, it really doesn't matter, you have to buy the. What kind of impact it will have on openSUSE 15?
For openSUSE Leap 15, we're not really planning on adopting a lot of those structural changes that SUSE is doing to the SLE product. I talked about this actually in one of my sessions today. It's one of those nice bits where the openSUSE community and its independence, like you just see that there's clearly different needs for the community, what the community want and how the community want to consume that software from what the business needs are like. The funny thing is they're both addressing the same actual real world needs. The whole thing with SUSE going in this modular route is because you need to have more and more different ways of consuming this technology. We have different variants, everyone wants different installations. The SLE model makes perfect sense for SLE. But you put that in a community bit where the variables are quite often far more diverse. The environments are far more diverse, and you're targeting a more hands-on community anyway. That's a given. They're there because they're enthusiastic for this stuff. So for Leap, having it as basically one big distro, one grand unified distribution rather than one grand unified installer, is currently the model we're planning on doing with Leap. But at the same time, all of that technology from SLE 15 is going in there. So the repository structure inside Leap will be changing significantly because it will be compatible with SLE. And in fact, there's a really nice feature which we're currently working on that isn't totally and utterly certain. I have to admit that, but we're both pushing this, both from the SUSE side and the openSUSE side. We want to offer with SLE 15 and Leap 15 migrations from one product to the other. So a SUSE customer who wants to, forego their support and start using openSUSE Leap should be able to migrate from the modular SLE to the openSUSE Leap distribution. And of course, an openSUSE Leap user who wants to get support should be able to migrate from Leap into SLE 15.
Now that's interesting because ever since I know you, or ever since this is the one question that I kept asking again. And I earlier I used to get totally different answer. Of course, you cannot expect the answer that you want, but this was the answer I was looking for a while. Because if you look at Ubuntu word, it doesn't really matter. It's the same Ubuntu you get, and I have been asking how to convert. So I'm really happy to see that this is finally happening. Yeah,
I've been agreeing with you the whole time.
Yes.
But SUSE management are on board with that too. So we're all looking at it really, really seriously now.
Now there are 2 points that arise from this. Number one is that from technology perspective, of course you're working, and since the openSUSE and SLES, teams are working closely. So I don't think there will be a lot of technology challenges. You're a German engineering company, you will find a way, elegant way for that. So that I'm not worried about. Second is what really happens, from the business perspective, like enterprise customers, that they can simply start paying whatever model they have with SLES and just So will SUSE help them migrate, or do you plan to do something which will just?
This is something that's actually coming from both sides. It's like SUSE product management are involved, SUSE engineering are involved in this too. This isn't absolutely dead set and certain. We have a few prototypes and stuff we've been kicking around, but the way it's probably going to end up looking like is an openSUSE Leap user will just be able to add the same SCC and SUSE Connect tooling that they would use on SLE. We already have it in Tumbleweed, so we're already moving on this one. So therefore they'd be able to add that and register a Leap machine the same way they register a SLE machine. At that point it appears inside SUSE SCC or SMT or SUSE Manager or whatever, just like it's another machine, obviously of a foreign distribution, but then it's just a migration step, the same kind of migration step that we would typically give for SLE service pack to another SLE service pack, and the same for vice versa. It's all very leveraging the existing SUSE infrastructure for their migrations from like SLE 11 to SLE 12 to SLE 15, but Leap will be there as another option in that migration tree.
One thing that kind of Ubuntu or Canonical enjoys Mindshare. It doesn't really matter, a lot of servers, of course, they can run Debian, CentOS, or Ubuntu, and with CentOS, they don't have the option to move to RHEL, if I'm not wrong. Same is the case with Debian, they cannot just jump, they have to go through the, rigorous process of actually moving to, which Ubuntu in this case would be a totally new distribution. But in the case of openSUSE, it will be easier, but the thing is, how are you planning to change the kind of mindset of to get more mindshare? Where whether it's hosting providers or like I talked to Spotify or Pandora, they were using, I exactly do not remember which company, but they were using Debian. But since Debian does not have a very kind of concrete point release model and support model per se, they moved to Ubuntu because they have the option to get. So in case of openSUSE, the big challenge that I have been talking about all along was, the mindshare. So how do you plan to reach out to all these players so that
we have been and we are. So this is something we're going to keep on ramping up from now on. So with 42.1, I'd say we were proving that we could do it from an engineering level, and we didn't get the like that balance at 33% balance right on 42.1. 42.2 we kind of smoothened out the process and got ourselves on track with that, and I really kind of think 42.3 was like the first one where we could start going to these providers and OEMs and other people and start saying, look, we have this awesome distribution that is enterprise code base right close up to SLE, we're working together, it's all one big happy family, but you've also got this huge additional value add from the community and everything they're doing there, and why aren't you doing that why aren't you putting that on your servers, why aren't you doing this? And we with 42.3 we are seeing significantly more traction with that already, but of course 42.3 is the last planned point release of the 42 range. So of course with 15 we've learned all these lessons, we've proven the point, we know we've got that, and we've got a couple of examples with 42.3 that we can have under our belt and kind of use as lighthouses. And with 15 you can really expect us to be pushing that message strong of we've got a lovely ecosystem building here where it is community and is enterprise, so where you are on that spectrum you can get something out of SUSE and openSUSE and have a nice platform to rely on.
Awesome. As I mentioned earlier, one of the worries of the customers was the point release. So when we look at SLES 15 versus openSUSE Leap 15, what will be the cadence or release cycle where will you be keeping up with?
We will be matching it just like we've got with the Leap model. So the development cycles have always been very closely aligned, and I'm particular with my term of development cycle. Because if I say release cycle, that's where they actually diverge. So to explain that better, the alphas for SLE, pretty much happen internally at SUSE because they're working deep and dirty with nasty, messy stuff. Once they've got like a rough working image, that's when you start seeing the public betas. Those public betas are generally when openSUSE starts getting the source code available for that SLE version. For SLE 15, it's actually been a little bit earlier than that, which is cool, but just generally speaking. So openSUSE's alphas are constantly overlapping with SUSE's betas. And so we're always aligned there. Our phases are coming out roughly at the same time. We're doing roughly the same milestones at the same time. And so you have this lovely synergy of like the community's heavy engineering is going on at the same time as the enterprise's heavy engineering. So everybody's working on the same thing at the same time. And then as the SLE stuff gets further along down the road, you start getting to like the release candidates and the later betas where everything starts getting more frozen and rigid from the SLE side of things. Where openSUSE, that's when openSUSE is hitting its alphas and its release candidates. Well, we have less of them because we can move a little bit faster at that point. So you end up synchronizing to this point where the openSUSE final release candidate is pretty much always aligned with the last SLE release candidate. And like we never guarantee it. Like we always have the freedom to shift and shake depending on what's actually going on in these two separate code bases. But for the last two releases, like the day the SLE version goes gold, which means like SUSE have finished it, frozen it, and that's now going to partners and certification bodies and all of that. That's the day that openSUSE has also gone gold because we've managed to like keep this collaboration going so smoothly for those 6 months of work. And then we like release a couple of days later. So you end up with this weird thing of, we end up doing all these press releases of openSUSE Leap 42.3 based on SLE 12 SP3, which will be released in a month. So it seems like we're faster, but in fact it's the same code base. We've been there on the same journey the whole time, and it's just we don't have that extra overhead of having to do certifications and other stuff before openSUSE can push that thing out. Yeah. But it's totally different from what you see on like the CentOS Red Hat thing, where CentOS is always behind where the enterprise side of things is.
It's not just that, it's also because since now you are also kind of establishing it as it should be easy to migrate from one product to other, so it becomes even more important. Now the second one kind of challenge that I see, I mean you have been doing it for a very long time, so it won't be a challenge for you, is as I was talking to Gerald earlier that at one side you have the SUSE team, which is the enterprise, and another time if I can use the Game of Thrones analogy, it's like the free folks, the king beyond the wall.
Does that make me Jon Snow? Okay, go on. Yeah.
No, I'm not talking to you as the leader of the free, because then you will be man, or I think it's Tommen or something like that. But Jon Snow is the king of the north, which once again in this context could be Red Hat, king of the North America.
Go on.
So let's just stay the free folks. The thing is that once you are kind of moving in a direction where it should be very easy for customers to switch from openSUSE Leap to SUSE Linux Enterprise, at that time the challenge becomes that a lot of time community may not want or may want something in openSUSE Leap, which may not align very well with what it should go in SLE. How will you maintain that balance?
Well, we had the same worries with Leap 42. I mean, that was kind of risk number one right up there. And when we had these discussions, like me talking to SUSE about it, we were always just, we'll play it by ear. We'll see what really happens, because and the community always had that freedom to decide what they wanted. And what we found, like with the example is 42.3 with a 33% split. It's a three-way split now, and we haven't got any examples at the moment of where the community, is really diverging in a way that makes those kind of features uncomfortable and unviable. And with 42.3, we were really expecting them. We were, it was kind of baked into the plan that we were expecting to see 42.3 splitting further away from that perfect three-way split model. But it hasn't. The community, seems to be choosing this way where they're quite happy with. So we're hoping that it'll be the same with 15. Obviously, if things do end up diverging and do end up splitting up, there's still other ways to mitigate and manage that anyway. I mean, we have so much tools and techniques with like what we can do in the build service. Having like a subset of packages which are like enterprise Leap or something, so you can easily draw the line of this is where it's easy to migrate from, but if you go and add this extra stuff, it's going to make your life harder or something like that. That's all options we can go down if they're necessary, but so far it's really been smooth sailing, way smoother than we expected when we started.
Yeah, that's what I said. You have been doing it already, but since now they're coming even closer. And now I'll switch to that. Creates a very good transition to the something which is very close to heart, which is Tumbleweed.
Yes.
No, what I also assume that as you bring openSUSE Leap and Sleep closer, that also means the target audience will also change in a way, because less users are totally different users, which is more enterprise centric. And I wrote the story also that openSUSE Leap is 99% enterprise now. So that also means that the users you're targeting with openSUSE Leap are different users than we usually see in the Linux desktop community.
Yep.
Which also means that Tumbleweed becomes even more important, because that is for the free folks, for the king beyond the wall. So can you quickly just build a little bit of distinction between the openSUSE Leap target audience versus Tumbleweed, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. So yeah, the openSUSE Leap audience, kind of like you said, you were aiming for kind of enterprise developers, enterprise-like enthusiasts, just your kind of typical user that just wants Linux and just wants it to work, and doesn't necessarily have too much of an interest in the latest and greatest, or where things are moving to. They're just they want a platform to get their job done. And that's that nicely encompasses like all those new audiences which are more sort of SLE aligned, but also like a huge chunk of the traditional openSUSE base. Another huge chunk of the traditional openSUSE base though is this. Another huge chunk of this openSUSE base is this community of users who really want the latest and greatest of everything, who are moving, want to see what's going on in every upstream further and faster. And that is like your typical Tumbleweed user. So upstream developers who are, working with stuff like the Linux kernel and want the latest version on day one. GNOME developers who want the latest version of GNOME as soon as it's available. And, and therefore like a big stack like that has a huge pile of stuff that's always moving fast underneath it. That's where Tumbleweed is really aiming for. And then of course the users and enthusiasts who are wanting to ride that wave and see that newest stuff all of the time. That's totally different audience from Tumbleweed, but all kind of fits under the openSUSE umbrella, which is really, really nice.
I thank you very much, Richard, for your time. I think
My
we
pleasure.
got everything that we were looking for, and hopefully we'll see each other at some next, SUSE or openSUSE or Linux event.
Yeah, FOSDEM this year, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.